Some people have been evacuated from their homes in buildings next to the one that collapsed in Surfside, Florida last week. This comes as new details are released into the history of the collapsed building. A contractor gave these photos to the Miami Herald showing corrosion and cracks just 2 days before the tragedy. The head of the condo association also wrote a letter to residents earlier this year explaining there were millions of dollars worth of repairs that needed to be made in the basement. 150 people are still accounted for. So far, 11 bodies have been pulled from the rubble. Kobi Karp is the principal architect at Kobi Karp Architecture and Interior Design. He joins us now for more perspective on the building collapse. Kobi, welcome. Great to see you again. We are learning more about structural problems within the Champlain Towers dating back to 2018. Is it common to have these types of issues go unaddressed for such a long period of time?
No. Number one, thank you very much for having me. And our prayers and our feelings are going out to the family members, to our friends and family who live in that building and neighboring buildings. But no, it is not common for these events to go on and not to be maintained for such a long period of time. Many times, although you have to put the caveat in there that the homeowners association gets these reports, and the folks who sit on that board are not necessarily engineers or contractors who understand the issue and understand the importance of fixing a roof, fixing the waterproofing, and the damage that it can cause by penetrating the skin of the building and into the concrete with the salt water that we have here in Florida and into the steel where the corrosion starts. And that's where the big problem is, because obviously you see then the spalling, but you never know how much corrosion has actually occurred within.
Yes, and you mentioned the salt water. We also heard those reports of repeated flooding in the building's garage. How damaging can salt water be to concrete when it's not able to run off? And how do you prepare a building to withstand saltwater corrosion?
So the salt water basically eats away at the steel, and that's what it does. And then the steel, which is the bone of the building, starts to give away. And that's the problem, especially the steel where it meets the horizontal and the vertical, where a column or a shear wall meet a horizontal slab. That connection, that joint is like an elbow. It becomes extremely, extremely valuable for the building. And we protect the concrete and we do waterproofing. So in this case, the waterproofing on the deck of the garage has failed. And if you read the report, you'll see a sentence in there, a small paragraph, where the inspector states that there are potentially, he's asking if where else can this happen? Meaning if the waterproofing has given away at the pool deck, where else has the waterproofing given away? Maybe at the roof, maybe at other locations. And that's why that report is also valuable.
Is it typical for the waterproofing in a building that's about 40 years old like this one to have given away? Is that early for it to have been eroded, or does that indicate to you that there was just massive exposure to salt water in that building more than in others?
Yes. If that roof or that waterproofing membrane was not repaired or maintained in the past 40, 30, 20 years, then that's a problem, because these waterproofing membranes usually have a life warranty or a shelf life that they give the manufacturer for material and labor installation of 5 years, 10 years, 15, sometimes even 20 years. But just looking at Google Earth, you can see the condition of the roof, where it is a little bit lighter, a little bit darker, and which shows that there is the potential of water penetration that has occurred there.
So there was also another report that showed an estimate of the repairs that needed to be done immediately to the building, somewhere around $9 million. Do you think it was the size of that price tag that delayed the repairs that were necessary? Who would have ultimately been responsible to pay for those repairs?
Usually it's the homeowner association, and not usually, but generally speaking, it is the homeowner association. What happens here is, though, if you do not maintain your building, and you do not keep it in good condition, then it just continuously compounds the damage that can occur. So when the inspector was at the building, and what I'm seeing now, that we have a new day, we have a new opportunity to turn a fresh page and look at this. And I'm seeing the government officials, the inspectors and the engineers all getting together and trying to create an opportunity for inspections that are so much better and so much stronger. These inspections can now be done with X-ray. They can be done with checking the salinity of the concrete. They can be done with infrared to see what the condition of the steel is behind the concrete, behind the walls. What is the condition of the concrete and how much salt is in there? That's what you can start, I think, to see. And furthermore, you can do the same thing in the soil. You can see how the soil has shifted or not for the foundation, for the piles. And that is what is so, so important to start to understand when these inspections are being done, especially for the buildings that are 30, 20, 40, 50 years old.
I think there will be a lot of inspections, like you just described, going on all around Miami in the days ahead. Kobi Karp, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.